So just on that point, I've just got a few welcome slides to set the context really. So GW4 is what's funded the network. It's an alliance between 4 universities listed there, which covers 8,000 academic staff members, 22,000 postgraduate taught and research students, that kind of grant income. And we were fortunate enough and very grateful to receive funding from the building communities, the initiator fund. So there are various stages of funding. The first amount of funding, a modest amount, was to fund this launch event and some other regional events. The BeDMaSH leads are listed there. Each of the speakers, in fact, Chris Darcy and myself, Harper, Martin and Simon, are going to actually give short talks as well, so you'll get to meet them. There's an opportunity afterwards as well to stay for drinks and canapes for discussions. So what is the research context? Well, we all know about the challenges that we face in trying to design and deliver what we say in Wales, prudent healthcare services to maximise the use of resource to meet the challenges and the growing demands and so forth on the system. We know that modelling can help, and indeed a lot of the teams here represent the different research groups which are using modelling to help in designing efficient and effective healthcare systems. And that can be systems modelling, very broadly, simulation, mathematics, OR, decision sciences, whatever you might want to call it, or different flavours of modelling, but it can all contribute. But I think what we felt where the gap was, it typically failed to capture behavioural aspects. And I've got some examples about what I mean by that. And of course, through the series of short talks coming up, you also get a sense of where the gaps are. And then we'll have time to discuss, as I say, what are the grand challenges and where behaviours become important. So we believe that a new method is required to understand these dynamics. How do you capture and build into the models behaviours, human behaviours? So what do we aim to do as a network? So this is just our first launch event, obviously. So we would like to eventually seek to put in a submission for further follow-on funds, what's called an accelerator funds, which will enable us to run future events like this, capture this interesting and exciting initial interest. We would like eventually to put in, or just get an outline of a proposal around the scientific aspects, which could go in, for example, to someone like EPSRC or ESRC. These are the funding councils in mathematics and social sciences and so forth, around the methodological aspects. Also, that would be prudent to go for funding around the actual applications, working with people in the health service. And that could be, for example, around NIHR type applications, here in Wales, Health and Care Research Wales programs and so forth. We are planning to run, we have funds from the initial funds to run an event in January, which will be a residential 2-day or 3-day event to thrash around some of the ideas we're building on today. We also hope to run other regional events, obviously very Cardiff-focused events, and people here represent the local geography, but we'd like to run events in the other 3 centres as well. So that's what we want to establish. Here's just a few examples to kind of, if you like, set the scene and whet your taste buds. Some examples in breast cancer screening, which I was involved with a few years ago. And this is where we're trying to look at how frequent to screen for breast cancer and the age of screening and so forth. And so typically, for at least mathematical type models, PhD students I had, we could build mathematical models which look at modelling a woman through her life course, tumour growth, and we can overlay that process with some sort of screening parameters. So typically you would look at things like incidence, age of onset, tumour growth, and you can model these mathematically, and you can simulate a lady through her life course, whether cancer, tumour grows and so forth. And then you can start to play around with those type of models and say, well, what if we were to screen more frequently? What if we were to change the age of screening? What would be the outcomes then? Would we capture more tumours and so forth, more cancers? Would mortality drop? But what was interesting here was that we actually put in some psychological variables. This is the first time for me, which really got my interest sparked, is speaking to psychologists who are based in Canterbury in Kent, who had built theory of planned behaviour type models, which actually capture the beliefs of women about attendance for mammograms. So we know that nationally, 70% of women, when they're invited to go for screening, attend. So for some reason, nearly a third of women decide it's not in their interest to attend for a mammogram, and one would imagine it would be in their interest. And so the psychologists actually were able to capture those type of behaviours down to 3 kind of constructs, what they call constructs. It's very useful because this is actually quite a mathematical expression of form which captures those behaviours. And so what we were able to do was actually take those behaviours from a theory of planned behaviour perspective and build them into our mathematical models. And so that enabled us then to start to say, well, not only can we change the screening parameters, what if we tried to change some of these beliefs or these constructs? And that, in turn, increased attendance, which in turn hopefully led to reduced mortality. So now you can start to play off resources. Is it best to put resources into screening, or is it best to put resources into increasing uptake and attendance? And so that was quite an interesting first idea of trying to incorporate some of the behaviours here about attendance into breast cancer screening. Very quickly, because we've got to get through a lot of talk, I think one of the speakers, Vince, will talk about this later, but we also then worked with colleagues in Decipher here and the ASSIST program, Smoking in Schools, and we're able to build social networks of adolescents. This is children in a particular year group in schools. The arrows represent the connected, the friendships, and the reds represent smokers. And actually what you can do, again, mathematically and other ways, you can actually see how those networks evolve through time and smokers congregate together in schools. And actually, therefore, can we intervene by looking at who are the most connected, i.e. the popular guys in the year group who smoke, and by targeting those people through an anti-smoking message is much more effective than just saying a blanket approach of saying don't smoke to all children. So actually you can start to see how these networks evolve through time, and I won't say more than that because I know Vince is going to say. Unscheduled care is another huge issue. We're doing a lot of work and loads of interest to many people here. This is like a spaghetti diagram, which is meant to show, for example, all the kind of flows of populations through different parts of the unscheduled care system. It looks a bit of a mess. My questions are things like, where are the human behaviours in that? And not just about patients, but also staff behaviours. Where do patients seek care? Out of hours care? What kind of things go through their decision-making process when they decide where to take their child? To the A&E directly, to phone 111, and so forth. How do staff perform in an A&E environment? Do they get to a point when it's so busy that their kind of productivity starts to drop off? Things like this. So it's staff morale, it's patient behaviour, and how does that, or is it important in terms of modelling unscheduled care? And finally, ergonomics, another not particular interest I've had a lot of experiences, but I know that Ian Gilchrist is going to talk, is about the environment and about, for example, visualization and how that informs behaviour as well. So that's another part of behaviour and in healthcare.